everlasting, truly everlasting. And true things, we talk about bad things, it's only ever bad things. This past year's been a nightmare, I've been losing my shit trying to fight fair. Really all I need is fresh air. Wanna get lost in the love somewhere. My girl love never came back, I've been making my brain trying to think back. Was I truly ever like that? Was I really ever like that? I don't believe in fate, I think the weight of the world lies on your shoulders. I think I need a change, cause as of late I've been living in a wasteland. Losing sleep, watch the light reflecting, the hours never ending. And do you think life is everlasting, truly everlasting? So you just walk out that door, I never wanna leave your side, leave your side. I'll pick myself off the floor, I never wanna leave your side again. So you just walk out that door, I never wanna leave your side, leave your side. I'll pick myself off the floor, I never wanna leave your side again. I don't believe it. You say I'm not enough, I say I'm not giving up, no. I'm working out the details, but my tears won't let me. Small fears with little jumps, so sick of stupid love. Things you said to me that night cut deeper than you.
Thinking of all the sad things, wondering why I can't breathe.
I'm not feeling it today, I'm not feeling it today. Lost my mind and I can't escape the maze. Can't restart cause you're getting in the way. I'm not feeling it today. I've been high for so long, I forget what it's like to feel alive. I find I spend all my time getting lost in the halls of my head. I've been thinking about the shit that you said. I've been thinking about the way we love things. I know, life can be hard, I can be dumb, and love can be fucked. I'm not feeling it today, I'm not feeling it today. Lost my mind and I can't escape the maze. Can't restart cause you're getting in the way. I'm not feeling it today. Not enough, and I said I've given up. I wanna be a better me, the one you need. But instead it feels like something's missing. Instead it feels like my head is spinning, my heart is racing, the world is ending. Time to fly away. I'm not feeling it today,
Happy Monday, everybody. Got a good weekend. Cold and raining. I had a wedding I had to go to this weekend. Pretty much like the worst wedding weather ever. Started out pretty nice, but then I got cold and rainy. Huge week. Not a lot of people in here, so I won't get too into it yet. But huge week ahead of us. Huge week. What's up, Dorian? What's up, Brandon? From Hawaii? How's Hawaii right now? Good? I've never been to Hawaii. I always wanted to check it out, but like, I don't know where to start. I know there's a bunch of different islands. I know there's a ton to do. So I definitely need to check. So, couple things. Huge week, like I said. DXY doing exactly what I've said over the last several weeks. Exactly. It's kind of crazy. I've kind of given my own thoughts, and I know there's like a ton of people that are supportive, and I always appreciate it. But the one thing I will always say is there's this market psychology, right? So you have retail. Like, retail is always bullish at the top and bearish at the bottom. They're always arguing with you on so on and so forth. On Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday or Friday. I can't remember. I think it was Friday. I was live streaming, and I was just like, popping off, making it a little bit more entertaining, whatever. On a serious note, right? Like, there are people that actually believe that we haven't gone through recession yet. The reason why, well, one, we're about through the back end of recession. 2 of the 3 of my bottom confirmations are about to confirm, right? But the risk assets are broke out already, so risk always breaks out first. Now the dollar's breaking down. Once the S&P 500 breaks out, I mean, there's no stopping the entire market, right? So, in just TA aside, before we get into any TA, so a couple things. One, the average downturn for a recession. And you guys have to remember, our economy is extremely diverse, right? Like, some industries are going to get hit hard like they did in COVID, and some are going to come out profitable like they did in COVID. So if we take a ruler and we go from top to bottom, the average post-World War II, the average downturn in recession, or for recession, is 29%. We went down 28%, right? Or 27.75, 28% if you round. That's crazy, right? So we have one instance where we're saying, okay, we possibly went through recession. All right, just at the gym, and my allergies are acting up too. So we had that implication of, okay, we probably went through recession already. Risk assets dropped 80 to 90%, right? And we're not just talking about crypto. I know a lot of people hate, like a lot of bearish people hate on crypto, and they're saying it's never going to bounce back. Like, there are tech stocks that performed worse than Bitcoin, right? There are like reliable tech stocks. When you look at Netflix, Disney, so on and so forth. Tesla, I think Tesla had a very large pullback. Like I said, I don't look at all the risk assets. I did look at a list of popular tech stocks that went down 95% overall, though. So bottom line is risk went down 80 to 90%, about average. The NASDAQ dropped 40%. The Dow Jones, which again, the economy is very, very diverse, 22%. I mean, that's still a very large pullback. Like, you're talking major companies having very, very large pullbacks. Now, the counter argument is there are people saying, oh, well, oil and oil's why we're going to keep going up. And, well, first of all, oil always goes up during the summer. It's the United States. There's demand always goes up. People aren't going on vacations and so on and so forth. 2, there's this huge green initiative. When there's more demand for oil and less supply because we're drilling less or buying less or whatever it would be. Also, the OPEC regulations, also because the Eastern countries and Russia are not willing to sell us cheap oil anymore, so to say, just in a simple way. That's going to cause the price of oil to go up. We're also not drilling for oil. We have enough oil in Alaska to be fine, but we don't drill it. It's pretty crazy. What's up, yes sir? How's it going? What's the best altcoin? There's 20,000 of them. I have no idea. Big Island. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely check out Hawaii at some point. Don't get me wrong. I just have to there's just so many places. I've been to Turks and Caicos like 3 or 4 times now. I love it. It's awesome. And like, it's not that I wouldn't go to Hawaii. I know there's a ton to do in Hawaii, but there's also a ton on the East Coast. I'm way closer to the East Coast, right? So it's just like, it's a lot easier for me to go to like Turks or go to Puerto Rico, go anywhere in the Caribbean, the Bahamas. What's up, El? How's it going? So this was the indices bottom. Do you expect XPX and Dow to make new highs soon? Yes. Yes, I do. I honestly think, we closed this week the way the DXY is. I think we've bottomed. On top of just TA looking extremely bullish, right? Hedge funds and smart money are getting ready to buy or buying already. If for those of you that are like, oh, how do you know? How do you know? Because I work with them. Because I don't work with them anymore, but I've worked with them. I talk to them. I have relationships with them. And these aren't like I talk to them while I'm drunk at a bar and they're random people I meet. No, these are people I've known for a decade. These are people that I talk to on a weekly basis. These are people that I fish with, or go fishing with, that I go to the gym with, that I see regularly, that have started their own fund or work very, very high up in funds or hedge funds, or they were traders on the floor, now they're CFAs or whatever, CFOs, sorry, not CFAs, CFOs or whatever. Smart money's buying or getting ready to buy. And retail will always be left. Always be left before everything goes up. That's why from 16,000 to 31,000, retail bought the bottom. They got bullish at 30K. They said, "Oh, we're going to go up. We're going to do this." And when I say I'm bullish, I am macro bullish. I do not believe we're going to go below the low that we already have. That means could we go down to 15,500? Sure, if we do, I'm totally fine with that, right? There's a difference between having a swing trade mindset and a DCA mindset. My DCA, I started buying 10% above the bottom. I had absorbed all of that bottom. I've been buying since then. In my opinion, we go up to 40K, then back down to like 28,000 for a retest, and then we kind of consolidate whatever for a year or so, and then we go up to all-time highs. We're talking years out. I'm not talking we're going to 100,000 in the next month. You're out of your mind. What I am saying is, macro-wise, we are looking very, very bullish. We have 2 out of 3 things that have said the bottom is in. I simplified them as easy as I could, and frankly, a lot, at least in my opinion, I'm not getting any engagement. I'm getting a lot of negative feedback on it, and it's pretty crazy. And that, to me, says that it's going to happen. And it's not that, everything I say, people say it doesn't happen, and then it happens. But when everyone in retail, when I'm seeing normal people, and I see my normal friend group saying, we're going to go through a recession, we're going to do this, take your money out, bury it, and all this. When I have my redneck friends saying that recession's about to happen, when I for a fact know that we had a recession, right? We hit the definition of recession last year. They're always going to be left behind, always. In Canada, I got the same notification. What do you mean? I need to move my monitor so I can read. I live in Ontario. Let me read. In 08, the S&P went down 58%. Yeah, that's because the housing market crashed. We're also, I'd say we're 3 or 4, maybe 5 times more diverse than we were. That was also a financial collapse. We're not in a financial collapse. Most of the debt we have isn't bad debt. Thoughts on ETH? I'm long. Bitbit KYC. I live in. Stop using Bitbit or Bybit. Bybit is sketchy. Very, very sketchy. I mean, they're the least sketchy of all of the ones that aren't approved in the U.S. You guys have to remember, for a lot of these that are, if you're not from the United States, I have no idea what is usable or able to be withdrawn. So I would definitely do your own research there. If you use Bitkit, I always post and I'm always transparent about what's happening or what could happen. There's going to be this big KYC thing where you're going to have to use KYC in your exchanges. You're going to have to. So what I would say is do your research. If you want what I'm providing where I say, hey, this is what's going to happen, if this is the amount of time before this happens, whatever, use Bitkit. I'm always transparent about it. I live for that, right? I feel there's discrepancy economy hitting new highs in the way the current world is, too much debt and overpriced things. More people, but you have to remember, like, poor people don't move the market, and they never have. I think that people are, like, the average person, and also, just so you know, like, less than 50% of people invest in the stock market. So this idea that, people can't afford things, and, like, yes, there's a certain extent where things are too expensive, and it's, like, the economy's going to slow down. But there's also a lot of people that have a lot of money to do whatever they want. When I bought my truck, I bought a $70,000 truck, right? A couple weeks ago. I paid cash because I have the cash to buy it. And I don't believe in buying, other than a house, I don't believe in buying things and buying things you can't afford, right? Like, you should never be financing anything that isn't a house, right? Because essentially your house will always retain value or go up in value. Like, cars lose their value immediately. So you financing that, you're just losing even exponentially more money. So anyways, that car dealership said they've had more cash offers this year than they've had in the last 5 to 6 years, like, on cars. So people clearly have money, or at least the people with money have a lot of money to do whatever they want, right? So this idea that the stock market's not going to do this or that because there are people that can't afford groceries or any of that, which actually I think groceries went down in price a little bit because I bought a ton of groceries and it wasn't as expensive as I thought it would be. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, it will have some kind of effect, but I think there's more people with so much money. Like, there's so much sideline capital. That, and your average millionaire has probably 10 times more effectiveness than probably 100 normal people, they whatever your definition for normal is. I mean, billionaires employ people. They buy expensive, cars, the tires, the paint, the engine. They buy more premium groceries. They buy normal groceries. They essentially have much more impact on the economy than someone that's normal. And you have to think, like, a normal person, even when they have a lot of money, still doesn't spend it that much because their form of a lot of money isn't that much. Like, they're not, like, usually people that are quote unquote normal aren't building a pool with a deck or like a concrete, really nice concrete stamped deck with a metal fence and a water slide and all this shit. Like, that's what more, like, quote unquote rich people do. And that has way more effect than your average person. Like, your average person is always going to be, essentially not like broke, but they're always going to be like break even. Like, they're always going to live within their means. They're not going to be affecting the economy that much. Now, I will give you this. If there is a ton of those people, like, we're talking hundreds of millions of people in that stance in the United States, which I don't believe there is, then yeah. But you're always going to have poor people. You're always going to have people that are in debt. You're always going to have people that are spending more than they should, and they're always going to be broke, and that's just how it is. But I think that there are more people right now with more sideline capital. Actually, I know for a fact there is. There's more sideline capital right now in human history than there's ever been ever. And that's partially because people made so much money during COVID. Yeah, I think the economy will have to run through some kind of financial, financial refresher where we have like a depression because something's going to break at some point, right? But it's not going to break tomorrow. It's not going to break next year. It's going to take years for this to break. And for those people that say, interest rates are high. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, interest rates were in the double digits, right? They're really not that high. And a lot of those people that are getting houses and whatnot now, and I'll give you this. A year ago when things were happening the way they were and they were accelerating, I was like, it's looking bad. It's getting really, really bad. But now we're actually seeing that those interest rates don't need to go any higher. And yes, they went up very, very fast over a year. But now they don't, it's not looking like they have to be so dramatic because PPI is looking good now. PPI is going down, which will make CPI go down. So on and so forth. Yeah, reorder. So essentially, you will eventually have some type of financial collapse, like something will break, right? We'll have some type of larger recession or some type of larger market pullback. Something will happen, right? Like it has to, because we do have a lot of debt, but I would say it's probably going to be 5-ish years before that happens. I mean, you're talking about, and people with money have so much money. I mean, so much money. Banks have so much money. Hedge funds have so much money. I mean, there's so much money. And I don't know. I just don't see that depression happening anytime. And I say soon. 5 years is, it's 5 years, but there's still a lot of opportunity within 5 years. Well, repercussions take time to reflect, but we also had a recession. I don't know about an economic like a melt up. I don't know. I have no idea if that'll happen. If it does, then it does. But back to the S&P. Let's get into some TA before I take any more questions. So, first and foremost, still macro neutral, still boring. Looking at the daily, looks like we're consolidating. Honestly, when I seen this with Bitcoin, right? It's kind of like an upwards consolidation to help. Like you're still making like higher highs, higher lows, and you're helping RSI, MACD kind of go down on these lower time frames. I've seen Bitcoin do this, and there's usually a big green candle out. Just an example, just because I'm going to forget about this. I mean, look at this. I mean, these kind of upwards consolidations, right? Huge green move, right? I mean, huge green that go up. I'm not saying that's for sure going to happen, but I've seen it before, and I think it's more likely than not, especially with. I mean, it's pretty crazy what's happening right now. People are just ignoring it, and they're on top of that. My entire timeline is the most bearish I've ever seen. It's pretty crazy. Moving forward, the DXY. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. This is why this is so important. So we have 3 indicators. So 1, we have risk. We're just going to write it down. We have risk. And risk has confirmed its bottom. So risk is good. 2, we have the S&P 500. The S&P 500 has not confirmed its bottom. It is not broke 2,500 yet, or excuse me, 4,200. SPX has not broke 4,200 yet. So we do not have a bottom call yet. 3, we do have the DXY, and the DXY needed to. Realistically, it needs to close below 101.6. We're at 101.35. On the weekly, this is not a double bottom, ever. Ever in history, forever. That's never a double bottom. Unless we literally moon. I mean, moon. Like, we have to completely change this candle and go up, probably to 103. I highly doubt that's going to happen. Highly doubt. So we're going to put a kind of like, we'll put a small check for now. Right? Very, very small check with a circle. It's more than likely that it's going to work out. Why? Why was I the one saying that a double bottom was going to kick in? So 1, with our weekly, every time I've seen a double bottom look like this, where we have closes that are underneath, not to mention last week, we literally just retested that diagonal. That doesn't seem like a double bottom. On top of that, we already went through recession, right? We already had the definition of recession. I mean, it's crazy to me how people that have never worked, and I'm going to say this again, people that have never worked in the financial space, and I'll use Agris as an example. Guy works in IT, right? People that have never worked in the financial space, corporate finance, on a trading floor, whatever it'll be, they have no fucking clue what's happening right now, right? They're always going to have no clue because they have no, and this isn't necessarily a shot, even though the guy's a jackass. These people have never worked around money flow. They don't know where it's going. They don't have the connections to figure that out. Like, okay, maybe TA wise, you could kind of figure it out, but I have that extra confidence. I have that extra edge where I know that money's flowing, where I know the fund managers are going. And this isn't just one fund. This is multi-billion-dollar corporate finance funds that are moving money and getting ready to go. I have people on Wall Street that are getting ready to buy, that are saying it's time. The bottom is in. It's time, right? There are people that used to work for Wells Fargo that I know as wealth management advisors, and they form their own fund. They're buying, right? So this whole idea that the bottom isn't in and we're going to go lower. I mean, on top of that, you have the XPX going down 28%. That's a normal recession. You had risk going down 80, 90%. Leverage flush out. You had capitulation across the entire crypto space. Again, I'm not so sure about tech. I know things capitulated. But look at crypto. You know, we look at crypto every day. FTX broke. Luna broke. I mean, there were people that committed suicide. There were people that lost everything. There was a ginormous Bernie Madoff 2.0 with FTX. I mean, this whole idea that things are going to get worse and we're going to crash more and we're going to go to 3,000 or 10,000 or whatever the fuck it is. I just don't know where the fuck you're coming up with that information, because everything that you say about capitulation has already happened. Okay, the dollar global dominance is still going to be here for another 10 to 20. If I couldn't trade crypto anymore, what instrument would I trade? Probably just the equity stock market. So like SPX, probably trade options or something like that. I mean, the same thing applies, right? Bitcoin is essentially the S&P 500 for crypto. Are the so much money claims you're making based on anecdotal evidence, like conversation with hedge funds, people you mentioned earlier? I mean, there's literally a statistic on it that there's more sideline capital in the history of the human race than you've ever seen. Go ahead and look up that statistic. I've brought it up before and I've tweeted about it, and it's pretty crazy that, like, I'm still being told, like, oh, you think you know about this because you think you know. Like, no, there's a literal statistic. Hyperinflation will be tested, a recession in the U.S. Okay, so again with the DXY, right? The United States, and I know there's this fear that Russia and China and whatever the hell, like, guys, Russia is so beyond fucked. China, if you guys know anything about China and how China's economy is working right now, so for the last 50 years or whatever it was, they did the one-child policy. The problem with that is, and that we're seeing part of that problem in the United States too with the baby boomer. So with the one-child policy, you have essentially this ginormous population. So you have a population of old people, but pop old, that could have one child. So now the one child, and I wouldn't even say they're old yet. So now they're old. But now you have these people that are one person to support. Let's say there's three times as many people. Those younger people cannot, what's the word? They cannot, what's the word I'm looking for? They cannot basically finance all of this retirement. They cannot pay for all of this. These people are so fucked. Because think about it. When you're old, you can't produce as much. You're not paying for as much. You're not doing as much. The economy in China is so beyond screwed because of their one-child policy, right? Unless there is a way to fix it. It's very, very complicated, but it's looking very unlikely. They're going to suffer from this. The same thing happened in the United States. It's why Social Security and all of that, if you guys know anything about Social Security, so the average year keeps going up from 65, I believe it's to 68 now. The reason for that is we don't have enough people that are working and paying for that Social Security because there's too many old people. There's too many baby boomers. When they die, that will likely come back down. I wouldn't even say that's actually tough because if people are having less kids, which we've found that evident as well, that's going to be tougher. But as soon as the baby boomers kind of die down, that should drop down a bit as long as people are having children, right? Oh, crypto will follow risk assets, and risk assets will absolutely go down later this year, likely lower than before. Okay, what are your reasons for that? Right? Inflation is not gone, and it's coming back now. Can you be bullish with that information? Yeah, okay. So we're still seeing the typical retail investor telling the corporate finance guy with a decade of experience, telling you all of the information I know of, giving you all the TA I know of. With the little information you know, you're going to argue against me. I just gave you 101 reasons on why you're wrong about another quote-unquote recession and why we always had, or not always, why we already had one, right? The idea that people are going to say that risk assets are going to go down and risk assets are going to make lower lows. Look at the DXY right now and tell me that there is one reason why risk assets are going to go down. When we get to Bitcoin, it'll make a little bit more sense, but let's get to Tether dominance. So Tether, more or less dancing around, right? Not a whole lot. I put this line here for the weekly. We know we look at Tether dominance on the daily. We look at the weekly for Tether dominance. More or less consolidating. Kind of interesting here. Are we going to get some weird head and shoulders here? Are we going to maybe rise up, get that last little pullback on Bitcoin, and have a head and shoulders? Again, very weird head and shoulders, but very, very possible, right? Going into Bitcoin, and again, this is why I think a lot of you are going to cause another short squeeze because you're very, very overconfident on something that is very, very obvious. I've been telling my students for the last several weeks, and it's pretty funny. I got to move this over. Right? So, a couple things. A lot of people are extremely bearish right now. One, we're in support. We are barely in support. We have not wicked below support either. Another thing. So, we've established that this was zero fee. Great. So, this was zero fee trading. So, we're going to look forward and kind of zoom in on volume. If you know anything about volume, this is bullish. We have volume going down, hitting support. We have bullish divergences on RSI and MACD. We have low volume going down into support. Again, what is bearish here? What's telling you to short? What's telling you that Bitcoin's going to go down? Right? And for those people like, oh, well, bear market rally, whatever, it's manipulated, whatever. Guys, we went up 100%. Right? 100%. From the bottom to the top. We need to have some sort of relief. We're having that. We're having a relief rally again, right? If we look at 2020, right? 2020, we had lots of choppy moves like this. This is why it's awesome to trade these things because you get a 50% up, then we come back down again. COVID, so we're going to ignore it. We go sideways, another move up, another move down. All of this is tradable. All of this is just sideways accumulation. So when we go in the bull market again, we completely rip higher. I mean, all of these moves are tradable, right? All of them. And this idea that everything is about going up or down or breaking all-time highs or breaking all-time lows. Guys, you're missing out on some of the easiest trades ever. The bear market is the easiest trade that you can make. All of them. All of them are stupid easy. Inverted yield curve, extremely low employment, always before escalation into recession, much lower GDP and moving lower. Recession risk is always highest during the Fed pause. There are countless obvious reasons. Okay, can you pull up any, let's see, the inverted yield curve. Which yield curve are you even talking about? Because there's like 100 of them. Not to mention, we already had recession. Like, it's pretty wild that people are still thinking we're going to get a recession, even though we already had one. Inverted yield curve has never failed as a recession signal in all of U.S. market. We already had the yielding curve. We had a yield inversion. What was it, like a year ago? So you're right. But we already had recession, right? Housing market trajectory. What's wrong with the housing market? I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but people are still buying houses. People are still remodeling their houses. People are still buying raw materials to build. Again, I think you guys are getting sucked into this idea that it isn't going to happen, and you're going to be left buying the top yet again. I'm telling you. It's my last train of TA before we get into more discussion. Bitcoin dominance. I've been giving this out as a chart for a while. This is a perfect head and shoulders setup. I'm expecting, and again, risk assets look pretty good. DXY is breaking down. Bitcoin probably needs some more sideways consolidation, or it'll get a slight pump, but alts are going to absolutely moon, right? We're going to form this right shoulder. The confirmation is about 47% breakdown. That shoulder's forming, right? It's probably going to be early to mid-May before those big swing trades happen. Obviously, you're looking for, that right shoulder setup. And when that right shoulder setup forms, you look for swing longs on alts, so on and so forth. Why, since you mentioned Bitcoin liquidity going to move to alts, alts lose almost 25%. Most alts went up almost 200 to 300% over the last month. Of course, they need a pullback. Again, I gave you a scenario where alts are most likely going to move up due to Bitcoin dominance. I didn't say to take them. We went 100% almost twice, right? Ethereum, 100% move. Sitting on support right now, right? ICP, Crow hasn't really moved. That's why I'm buying. XLM, let's look at what XLM did. So bottom to top, 64%. Link hasn't done much yet. One had a huge pump. And there are lots of alts that did huge moves. These janky pullbacks, those need to happen so we can continue move. Like, nothing just goes up. Bitcoin liquidity will move up. I didn't say that it was going to happen tomorrow. I've given you plenty of TA that says we need to form this right shoulder. You're probably going to see Bitcoin maybe go up slightly or go down slightly or just consolidate for the next week. Maybe alts go down a little bit more. That's fine. I'm not long right now. Other than my DCA, I'm just chilling. There's nothing to trade right now. So I'm hanging out. I'm a swing trader. I don't day trade. Stupid. That's all I got for today. I think you guys that are very bearish, I think it's great that you're holding on to your convictions. I've always said, trust yourself, follow your own analysis, but I think you guys need to look a little more broadly, right? You're starting to fall into a bear trap. Look at the DXY and tell me that doesn't look like, I just don't know what to say. It's looking quite obvious that we're going to continue lower the DXY. The DXY went up the entire time. And I had someone say that DXY going up means there's no correlation to Bitcoin. So what do you mean? Because for the last year, the DXY went up completely. Bitcoin went down completely. The DXY goes down. The crypto market has a huge rally at the end and / beginning of the year of 2023. We go up, get a huge pullback, go back down, kind of chop a little more, get another high, and now we're breaking that support level. There's no way I'm going to beat the Fed. I don't think you know what you're talking about. Look at the 3-month versus the 10-year. I don't think anyone looks at that. Missed the bottom, unfortunately, but want to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum long term. Do you think it's a good time to start buying? I think you need to do your own research there. Again, with this narrative, there's no way I can beat the Fed. Guys, I know where money's flowing. I know where hedge funds are putting their money. First it was bonds, and now it's not. Right? The whole idea, and by the way, the yield, I believe the yield inversion is the 2-year over the 10-year. So the 3-month over the 10-year, that's not the yield inversion you're looking for. Some big CT analysts still calling 3.5K. Let them. I could care less. I'm going to end it here. Need to go eat. I'm hungry. I was at the gym for 2.5 hours. Like I said, guys, my biggest piece of advice for those of you that are bearish or whatever you are, do your own research. Look broadly. Look at both sides. Don't be hyper-polarized, because if you fall into one side, you're going to get bit in the ass. Look at someone like Agris. He missed 100% pump on Bitcoin. He missed multiple 2, 3, 5, 10x's on alts that were pretty easy to grab. Making fun of people for being bullish on stuff. It goes on and on, right? Don't be polarized to one idea. Do your research. Look at what's happening. Look at the correlations between multiple asset classes. And by the time this week ends, we'll get another probably confirmation whether the bottom is in or not. All that said, guys, be patient, use risk management. Good luck trading.